Hello, everybody. My name is David Michael.
And I'm Michael Carter.
And we are Ridiculously Bored.
So, COVID boy, how you doing in the second week?
Well, it's actually like the third or fourth week. It's the third week since I tested positive, but it is the fourth week since I was actually, if you want to call it, sick. I had fairly mild symptoms compared to what I've heard from some other people, but I think it has a lot to do with the fact that we got vaccinated. But the interesting thing that I learned, and this is not an oft-published concept, but because of the way they did the vaccines,
Right.
In the old flu days, you would get a small dose of the flu.
Correct.
Right. And it was so small that your body could very easily overcome it. And then it learned how to kind of deal with that flu. And then this way, if you ever got it, like full on dose, your body was prepared for how to deal with it.
And I believe Johnson & Johnson or AstraZeneca, one of them, their vaccine is based on that same concept.
Oh, okay. Well, none of those are
took a little
available in
bit
the
of it.
U.S. So, so we wouldn't know.
Fuck you, international.
And Philly, just so you're not feeling left out.
True.
Anyways, so what I was doing a lot of reading on this, the mRNA technology, right?
Yep.
And basically, I mean, the easiest analogy is it includes instructions for your body on how to react if, you were ever to come into contact with the virus.
Right.
So you're not actually getting a dose of the virus or a small dose. Your cells are basically being taught how to treat it when it happens.
Yeah, and I also believe they're being told, pretend the body has it and make this antibody.
Right.
So like you have it now in your system.
Something to that effect. And by the way, precursor to all of this, neither Michael or I are scientists, medical professionals, experts in anything viral related, virology, none of that. So this is all based upon what we read. And as we all know, everything you read on the internet is true. So
Right.
So this is factual information I'm
Right.
giving you right now.
And so while I'm not a doctor, I am more than happy to do rectal exams on the weekend if anybody needs it. Just comment down below.
By the way, I love how, someone with a Facebook degree won't listen to the CDC, but the major excuse now for anti-vaxxers is, it's not FDA approved.
Yeah, well, a lot of them now are rushing to get in line with this second wave that's coming.
Yeah.
The best thing I've ever heard about the vaccine was, I don't know if I saw it as a tweet or on Instagram or something, but it said something to the effect of, we have our best scientific minds working on this cure or antivirus stuff, but you read a tweet about it, so I'm going to go with your decision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the funny thing is the CDC is, according to them, untrustworthy. But when the FDA approves it, we're good to go. Because the FDA is totally trustworthy.
Yes,
So,
people should look up thalidomide, which was approved by the FDA for morning sickness, and it turned out it gave babies little arms.
anyways, as a result of the fact that you're not actually getting a dose of the virus, you can still transmit the virus. And This is something that they don't really talk about a whole lot. So in my case, I got the virus and wasn't asymptomatic. I had a cough, I had a sneeze, I still can't really smell 100%, and you know the deal, right? But it's transmissible through me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there are plenty of people now that are vaccinated, and when they actually get the virus are still asymptomatic. So the virus doesn't prevent you from the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting the virus. It just tells your body how to treat it when you do get it.
Right.
So
and
those
if you
people
do get it and you've had the vaccine, you should have a much, much milder result.
Right. So there are people, not unlike myself a few months ago, that had the vaccine and were like, hey, let's go anywhere. We can do anything. Let's go to Vegas. So it wasn't an oft-published, kind of discussion about the fact that even though you're vaccinated and it's 95% effective, it's 95% effective in correctly telling your body how to react when the virus actually hits you. Not necessarily, that doesn't mean you have a 95% chance of not getting the virus. I think your chances of getting the virus are still the same as anyone who's unvaccinated, but your chances of surviving the virus go up significantly because your body is prepared for it when it gets there.
Yeah, and so I worry for my daughter, who's only 8, because the other 3 of us in the house are vaccinated, and she's still at risk. Because, like, in essence, I know this is the extreme. Somebody could sneeze on me, I come home with it, and then I give it to her. That's my concern right now. It's really her.
No, that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
totally
we still
valid
make
concern.
her wear a mask, even in places that you normally wouldn't, like even some outdoor things, just because she's not vaccinated.
Yeah. She's also, I mean, I think she's past the age where it's like, I think it's pretty bad for infants and it's pretty bad for really old people. Right. So she's not in that category. So I think she'd be fine if she got it. She'd most likely be asymptomatic, but it's never, you always, I mean, as a parent, in the back of your mind, that's all you're thinking about is, oh my God, like what's the worst case scenario that could possibly happen? Right. Can we talk about Florida? Because you and I are about to visit Florida, and Florida right now is a fucking petri dish for the Delta variant of the COVID virus. So we are basically going into the mouth of the lion in a few days.
Well, let's start with, first off, we thought just the collapse of the building, because we're going to be in a high rise not too far from there. We thought that was our biggest problem a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
The structural integrity of the building that we're going to be staying at. But oh no.
We asked the guy who owns the condo that we're staying at. We're like, oh my God, were you affected? He's like, don't worry. We're in the other half of the building.
Yeah. And I said, because text, sometimes you can't get an understanding of somebody means. I'm like, are you serious? Like, where's your building located? And he's like, no, I'm not serious. So yes.
All right.
So we're going down there. It's pretty bad. I think now, and even some flights now, you need to get tested before you go, at least international, because I'm actually going to the Bahamas in September. And now you have to get tested within 5 days before you go. And immediately on your way out, they test you again to make sure you don't have anything. So it's interesting.
So I was checking the stats today, and being from Arizona, I wanted to look at, how many new COVID cases has Arizona had in the last few days. And it's something like 5,000 or 6,000. I think it was like 2,500 today. And then you add the last couple of days, and it's something about 5,000 or 6,000. I looked at Florida. Florida's had over 100,000 new cases in the last 3 days. Jesus Christ.
So this may be our last episode ever.
Could we pick a worst fucking time to travel?
Yeah, look, I mean, and a lot of the airlines have been bitches now. They don't, for a while, they were like, oh, you can just cancel, you can just move the ticket, we'll refund you the money. Now it's like, no. We'll give you an e-credit that you can use within a year.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And David and I are going to try to record something while we're down there. Might be difficult to hear us with masks on. But, we're also going to see if we can sneeze on a few old people while we're there and maybe kill a few of them. So.
Don't say that. I got to bleep that out.
Okay. Sorry. We're not going to try to kill them.
Ass. Yes, we are. Get out. Oh, man. So question for you. Do you know if, it is a Republican state, so I'm pretty sure that there's not like a mask mandate that I'm aware of. Is there?
I think this is one of those states. So lately there's been some states that have started this, like, fuck what you're telling us to do. There's no way you're going to make us wear masks. We don't want to wear masks. I believe Florida is one of those. Look, I'll probably wear a mask more times than not. But again, when you go into a restaurant, even if you wear the mask in, you then sit down. Once you're sitting, you're allowed to take off the mask. So, like, does COVID know the rules that you're not allowed to catch it while you're eating? Like, I don't know what it means, those kind of situations. But yeah, I would think, obviously the flights, we got to wear it, any public transportation, things like that. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm immune for the next at least 6 months, so I don't know. I don't think I'm going to wear a mask, but obviously I'll wear it if I have to, if it's mandated.
So in about a week, we'll be talking about David's second case of COVID.
So, all right, this will be a great test, right? If I get it again, at least I know if I get it, like I can get through it. Like, like I said, I had fairly mild symptoms. So if I get it again, at least I know what to expect.
Right.
But this will be an interesting study because we are going into the hotbed. If I get it again, then all the news about you being immune for the next 6 to 9 months is complete bullshit.
We shall see. Let's
Yes.
roll the dice.
We shall.
Yes. So while you have spent a lot of time indoors the last couple weeks, I actually have done a few outdoorsy things. So me and the family went ziplining last week with my cousin and his family. We went last year. I think it was like literally right after the lockdown eased, and it was like full mask even when you're on the zip lines and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But this time we didn't have to do any of that. So have you ever gone on zip lines?
Yeah, so there's a buddy of mine actually owns a zipline company, event place. It's called Flagstaff Extreme. It's up obviously in Flagstaff, Arizona, so about two and a half hours north of here. And when he first opened it up, I immediately took the kids out there and ended up. So funny story about that. I don't know if you remember the old quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals, Kurt Warner.
Yeah.
He was also a quarterback for St. Louis Rams. Actually,
the Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winning
Hall of
Kurt
Fame,
Warner?
Super.
Yes.
Yeah, not everybody knows him, but yeah. So I call my buddy and I'm like, hey, I want to go out and I want to experience the park. Like, you don't have to give it to me for free. I'll pay for it. Just like help me book it or whatever. So he's like, what day do you want to go? And I was like, I want to go on Saturday. So he's like, great. He said, I have a special surprise for you when you get there. I said, great. Okay, cool. Thanks. Appreciate it. We show up. The surprise was it was us and Kurt Warner and his family. We were all going on the zip lines together. So I was like, hey, Kurt, how's it going? Like, it was just an interesting experience. But yeah, they had like miles and miles worth of courses. So we did the whole park. Like we did the beginner, the intermediate, the advanced, like did the whole thing. It was an awesome time. Also went to Mexico, Cancun, and went to a park called Explore, and they had like 14 miles of zip lines from like mountain to mountain to mountain, and we did that. That was probably 15, 20 years ago, but that was awesome as well. So yeah,
and then David went to Zona Norte, and the only zip was his zipper.
I have not been to Zona Norte yet.
Yeah. So the fun thing about ziplining was, as you mentioned, they had all these different courses. And it's funny because, they have like these beginner ones, and which tend to be for kids. So I went on it with my daughter, who's 8, nimble, and like 50 pounds, 4 feet, 50 pounds. I am 6 feet tall. I am 5 or 6 times 50 pounds.
Let's be realistic. You're like 5'11" and 3/4.
No. 6 feet, even if I have to be on my tippy toes.
I'm going to call bullshit on that. You've shrunk.
Well, your son just passed you in height, so I'd be quiet.
Actually, he hasn't. We'll talk about that in a second, though.
So I went on some of the beginning courses with my daughter, and they're called beginner, but they're really made for younger kids. Mm-hmm. Those were so fucking physically demanding for me because I was trying to fit, a 50-pound bag in a 40-pound sack type thing. Mm-hmm. It was crazy, but some of the other ones, awesome. I loved it. And I also, when I look, speaking of my weight, there is another one that some friends have gone to in the past, and I'm too heavy for it. And the guy's like, I was like 3 pounds overweight, and I'm like, okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go out, and the guy's like, no, you can't. You're 3 pounds overweight, and I was like, are you kidding me? The guy's like, no, it says you can only be this weight. You're 3 pounds overweight. I'm like, how fucking dangerous are these that for 3 pounds you're worried about it breaking? He's like, it's the rules. So we had to find one that has a higher weight limit.
That would be funny if he would have said, okay, why don't you find out? Go ahead.
Yeah. If you hear buckling. So why do you think your son isn't taller than you now?
Because he had his annual doctor's visit this week, and I took him. And the first thing they did was make him take his shoes off, and they measured his height. And he came in at 5'11" and a half. And I used to be 6'1". I think I'm closer to 6 feet now. So, because my arches, I've always had high arched feet. My shoe size is getting bigger, which means that my arches are kind of spreading out. So, so they're flattening. So, yeah. So I used to be an 11 and a half. I'm now a size 13. Yeah. So it's crazy.
I know my doctor, if you're going to go by that, my doctor says I'm 6 feet tall. There might be $50 passed to her when she's measuring me, but she says 6 feet tall.
She's a lion sack of shit, though. Wait, you have a female doctor? Did we talk about this?
I do. We might have. She's pretty too.
Does she do the hernia check for you?
She does. And
does she gasp when she takes your underpants down?
She goes, "Where is it?" She goes, "Oh, you're a tucker." No,
you're a grower, not a shower.
She is. It's awkward, man. Let me tell you. Like, and she's very professional. She's also once said to me when I had to have a prostate exam, she's like, "Don't worry, I have small hands," which I thought was really funny to actually say out loud. But my wife uses her as well, so that's I guess I don't know if that's weird or not, but we go to the same doctor. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that whole process in general. Not just the finger up the ass, but like the hernia
what doctor
check.
Are you going to, and where can I book his appointment?
Yeah.
What? Never had a finger up my ass by a doctor.
You haven't? You haven't had a prostate exam yet?
No. In fact, when I turned 40,
they raised fuckers. They raised it to 45.
Well, no, my doctor said they raised it to 50.
Wow.
So when I turned 40 and I had my annual exam, I was like, I was dreading the appointment. I'm like, all right, let's just get it over with. And he's like, no. He's like, we don't do that anymore. He's like, I'll check you again in 10 years. And I'm like, oh, fuck, okay. But still, so, part of me is like, oh, thank God, right? But the other part of me is like, well, fuck, man, what if I get like cancer and like you don't know until I'm 50? Yeah. So it's a little bit annoying, but it is what it is.
Well,
I don't want to go down there like a psychopath and say, somebody better stick their hand up my ass.
Blind form's here, literally here.
I'll pay.
Yeah, no,
I'll
from
pay
our
extra.
last few years in Vegas, our unofficial exam, you're fine.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
I can't even respond to that.
So last week when we recorded, it was actually on, and I can't believe we didn't talk about this or neither of us realized it. We recorded on the 40th anniversary of MTV.
Yeah. By the way, I saw the best meme the other day. It said, MTV turned 40 this week. Congratulations on 14 years of music videos.
So, yeah, that's, and I ran kind of the same joke. I was like, oh, that's about the time they used to play videos. So for anybody who's a little bit younger, and I doubt we have people who are that young, but MTV actually used to play videos during the day.
24 hours a day. Almost.
Yeah, 24 hours a day. Then The Real World, I think, was their first show that became a non-video related show. And then from there, the next thing 10 years, 15 years later, they're not fucking showing any videos at all. So it's a little bit crazy. So yeah, that turns 40 years old. Yeah. I can't imagine that still has any relevance today. MTV.
Do you remember the band and song that was played, the very first video?
Ironically, or appropriately, I should say, was "Video Kill the Radio Star" by the Bugles.
The Bugles, yeah.
No, it wasn't the Bengals. Bugles, right?
The Bugles, yeah.
Yeah.
Was it somebody posted a YouTube video of the first 10 videos? It was like the first half hour of MTV being on the air. Somebody apparently recorded it on VHS and had it, and then digitized it and pushed it up to YouTube. But it was actually, I saw it a couple days ago, which was really nostalgic. I remember before rap was popular, I remember coming home from school and watching Yo MTV Raps.
Yeah, with a different Dr.
Dre.
Different Dr. Dre,
yes. Yep. Not the Dr. Dre that we all know and love. A different Dr. Dre. And,
that guy's got to be dead. He was like 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And Ed Lover was his...
Ed Lover, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that was back when you had Grandmaster Flash and Run DMC was just getting started. And,
you know what's great about us remembering all this stuff from MTV? What was your daughter's first word?
Pretty sure it was dad.
Sure, but not 100%.
I'm pretty sure.
I have no idea what my daughter's first word was. I can remember fucking Ed Lover and Dr. Dre from 40 years ago. I don't remember my daughter's first word.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was dad because I remember making a big deal out of it.
Gotcha. If you have the tattoo on your arm of Zelda, right?
I do.
They've re-released a Zelda Skyward Sword, it's called, for the Switch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like you haven't played it.
No, I haven't played it. Was that a game?
Yeah, it was a game about 10 years ago.
Was it like the Nintendo 64, or do you know what console it was on?
That I don't know. Because
I never got the Nintendo 64, so any Zelda game, because I was familiar with most Zelda games. Obviously, the original Legend of Zelda is 100% my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And then Zelda 2, and then there was like Ocarina of Time, and then there was the Game Boy had one. I remember that. And then what was it, Call of the Wild or one of those? I can't remember the names, but
Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the
one
Wild
from a couple years ago. That one's awesome.
Yeah.
So this game is, you can tell some of the graphics are a little bit dated. Not too bad though, but a little bit dated. And then it's funny because Nintendo is a Japanese company.
Correct.
And they definitely have some people writing the sayings that people say who English is absolutely not their first language. Because it's like the way they're talking, the way they're saying things, the sayings that they're using. Even fucking 10 years ago, we weren't using those sayings. So I don't know what's
remember. So it's funny you should say that, because there was a whole host of games that came out in the 80s and 90s that were most certainly developed in Japan or overseas, and they tried, since the U.S. audience was like the biggest video game crowd at the time, they had to translate them, and I guess the translation budget was really small. There was one game where the intro to the game, you are in like this, I think it was like Contra or Dragon Brothers or one of those games where like the enemy comes in, and it's like one of those cut screens like at the beginning of the game where you find out like why you're doing what you're doing, and the cut scene has an alien talking, and he says, "All your base are belong to us." So it was a funny moment in history, because I mean, as a kid you're like, what the hell, like all your base are belong to us? Why do I remember that? Because somebody made a techno song out of that like 10-15 years ago, and they used the actual like clip from that cutscene, and it became super popular. And every once in a while I'll be like on Facebook or something, and somebody will say, "All your base are belong to us." Pretty funny.
No. So that game's pretty good. If anybody's out there who has the Switch, like I love the Switch. Originally I got one for my son, and then he was using it upstairs. And then when Breath of the Wild came out, I got one for myself. I'm like, fuck that, I want one of these. Yeah. So I got that. So that was pretty good.
Yeah. You want to hear something funny? So I got a new iPad, and immediately, anytime you get a new toy, you're like, all right, what games can I get? What apps can I download? Like, I got the iPad Pro, so I was hoping it would be a laptop replacement, but there are still things like I still can't edit 100% of the video that I do on it. Like I can edit our episode on an iPad, but I can't edit the audio. Like I can't fix, like your audio sometimes has a little bit of echo, so I have to remove that. The app that I use for that is not available for the iPad, so it's like I have to do a mixture of both. So I'm going through this process of trying to figure out, in my workday from 8 a.m. to whatever, right, how much of my day can I do on the iPad versus, what I can do on a regular computer? Because it would be awesome if I could just, I don't know, go to a Starbucks, take the iPad, not a laptop, and then just kind of work there off the iPad. I'm slowly but surely finding out where all the limitations are. But where I was going with that is the other night I was just looking for something just kind of like to help me fall asleep. So I downloaded this Marvel app that allows you, it's almost like colorblind numbers. There's no numbers, but they give you like comic book covers, like the one you have behind you. And you can, obviously Marvel, not DC, but you can color them with, the pencil, and it's awesome. It's super relaxing, and you can make Iron Man green. You don't have to follow the normal color schemes, but you can if you want, and it's fun. So
you're falling into that craze of the adult coloring book that was from a couple years ago.
Yeah, there's like 100 apps that do like, adult coloring books. I was actually pretty surprised, but for me, like the Marvel one was like, oh, that's pure gold. Like I'm definitely getting that. So I got that, and I'm coloring in like all these like 1960, 1970, like Avengers, X-Men, like all the old, like first 10, first 20 issues. I'm coloring in the covers of those, and I'm loving it. And then I'm like, I see the cover. I kind of want to read this issue. I think I read it before. So then I bought the Marvel Unlimited app. So now I'm subscribed. So for the last like 3 or 4 days, I've been like downloading like X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men 3, like just reading from the beginning all the different comic books, and it's been kind of fun. So
Yeah, I share my Disney Plus with a friend who has paid me back by giving me access to his Marvel Unlimited. If Disney or Marvel's listening, that's not actually true. We don't do that. So how was your pizza party last week?
Yeah, so I talked about we got the pizza oven for Father's Day. It took forever to come in. It finally came in last week, so we invited a bunch of people over, and I ended up making I want to say 5 or 6 12-inch pies, and it was I just made some normal kind of marinara sauce. We got the mozzarella, we got some all different meats and cheeses and stuff like that, and we got some just a bunch of different stuff to put on it, and we made 5 or 6 pizzas, and it was awesome.
Do they cook as fast as those real brick ovens?
They cook in
throwing a pizza. It's 2 minutes, and it's
2 to 3
done.
minutes. Yeah, they cook really fast. In fact, if you don't sit there and watch them, they burn really easy because you kind of have to turn them every 60 seconds. Otherwise, they just start bubbling up and then they burn, and then it's a disaster. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. So I left the oven out, and we still had some dough left. So for lunch the other day, I'm just I'm going to friggin' turn the oven on. It takes 20 minutes to get up to 800, 900 degrees. And then just going to throw some dough in there and throw some pasta sauce. It is a 20-minute. It was almost as easy to make a fresh pizza for lunch than it was to heat up some meal from the freezer or create a sandwich. It was almost the same amount of time. So I'm damn.
What kind of power does it get? Meaning, is it a
propane.
Plug-in? It's propane.
It's propane. Yeah,
so
they have
it's in
2
your
kinds.
Backyard?
Yeah, it's in my It's on my patio. So they have propane and they have wood. Obviously, the wood one that doesn't have the propane adapter is a bit of work, right? Because you got to put wood in there, you got to chop it up, you got to get it in there, you got to light it, you got to wait for it to heat up. That takes an hour. The propane's super sweet. You literally just turn the propane on. It flames up. 20 minutes later, you've got 800, 900 degrees.
Yeah, you should run the propane. Do you have gas in your house at all?
No.
See, out here we have gas, and we run the lines from the house gas to the fucking barbecue. Oh, it's
yeah,
the
so
greatest thing in the world.
Propane tank. Yeah. So we had gas at the last house. So it's not an Arizona thing. It's just some houses have it and some houses don't. The thing is, you got to remember, winters here are super mild. So heat is, you use heat, but you use it pretty much sparingly. We would use heat probably less than someone in San Diego, where it's 70 degrees all year round, uses their AC. You know what I mean? So gas isn't as necessary. It's great for cooking, but I mean, everything now is those flat, electric stoves anyways.
Yeah. I don't know how to cook on those, but I hate those. So the Olympics is coming to an end in the next couple days.
Thank God.
And I haven't really watched it. I know you said if you're not doing anything, you have the Olympics on in the background.
I used to. I got bored of it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of bored, I happened to be at a place and they had diving on. And I can't imagine what these fucking announcers have to say to make diving seem interesting. But at one point he was talking about the person's ankle and ankle angle they were using when going into the water. Oh, I'm like, this is fucking rock bottom, man. This is what you have to talk about.
I get every sport, there are idiosyncrasies. There are super intricate things that you need to do in order to get a perfect score.
Right.
So people that announce for those sports and maybe that have done those sports before get super excited and super into it. But when a sport like that comes on, all I'm looking for is somebody to fuck up. Because to me, that's epic, right?
Exactly.
And it just so happens I was watching diving last week, and this Canadian chick gets up and she's going to do her dive. And I don't know if her legs buckled or she just realized that it just wasn't going to happen. So she jumped up, and when she came down, her knees just kind of bent, and then she just fell over into the water. And I think they were saying she got the first 0 in Olympic history. I don't know if that's true or not, but she got a 0.
She got zeros, I think, across the board, actually.
Yeah, well, there was no dive. She literally just, it was kind of you or me going, I'm going to do it. No, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, when I watch those type events, I'm definitely looking for the cannonball over the perfect dive. That's for sure. And then today I was at a restaurant at lunchtime, and rock climbing is a fucking Olympic event now.
Well, cornhole's an Olympic event. Nothing fucking surprises me
Really?
anymore.
Cornhole's an Olympic event?
Cornhole is an Olympic event.
That's what's wrong with society, that these things are considered Olympic events. The way I view it as, and I'm not a rock climber, but cornhole for sure. Anything that I, in essence, could probably do, I'm not saying great, but I could do, should not be an Olympic event.
Well, this goes back to our whole discussion from last episode where I'm watching the event and I'm like, I think I could do that. And I think I'd be pretty good at it.
Yeah. And so I sent you a video this week.
You did.
Which was a former Olympian, 5-time medaler. I don't remember what his medals were.
Right.
And he went against the announcer.
Yeah.
And he gave him a head start. Smoked the shit out of him, and actually
smacked him on the back on the way past him.
Tapped him on the back to mock him as he was passing him by.
But I'm telling you, that's great television. I would love to watch that for every sport, just so you can appreciate how really amazing these athletes are. And, I make fun of the Canadian, diver for, buckling or whatever, but can you imagine? I mean, think about how many thousands of hours of training had to go into that one moment. Yep. And it cost her a medal. Like that dive, it wasn't one of the ones that she could throw away, and that dive counted. So that 0 basically took her out of medal contention, and that's got to be so demoralizing.
Yeah. Well, and the good thing is they only have to wait 4 years, like between them, right? When something like that happens, something you fucking practiced blood, sweat, and tears for 4 years, and in an instant from a wrong turn, a decision not to do it, a yip, when you have it or something, it's like the whole 4 years is gone. It's rough.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about the Simone Biles thing, but I mean, I get super agitated and angry. Being a parent, I get super agitated when I see people post shit online like, oh, she failed her country or she quit or whatever. And I don't know what's going on in her head, only she does, but to kind of take a shot at somebody when you're literally sitting at home on your ass, on your couch, doing nothing, except commenting on Facebook. I really want to reach through the phone and smack somebody around when they do that.
By any chance, is your mom posting on Facebook? I'm kidding.
We're not friends on Facebook, so I don't know. By the way, did you see there was a Frontier Airlines flight the other day? All right. And I saw this on Facebook, which is why I remembered it, where some dude was just obliterated, drunk out of his mind. And they didn't have video of what caused him to get to this point, but apparently he was yelling at the flight attendants and he had groped one of them as they walked by. And I guess he grabbed the breasts of another flight attendant. And the dude flight attendant was like, all right, that's it. They ended up duct taping him to his seat in the plane, and there's plenty of video of him scuffling with the male flight attendant,
right,
who was a big dude, and duct taping him, and then duct taping his mouth so that because he was screaming obscenities and whatnot. But did you see the video for that?
I haven't, but so I must not have mentioned it. Maybe I didn't mention it on a podcast. That happened on one of my flights. They fucking duct taped the guy.
I think you
to
did
its
mention
seat.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know I was at a party recently where I was mentioning it, and they're like, that shit doesn't happen. And then fucking 2 days later, it's on Facebook that the guy was, I think he was a little bit mentally challenged to start off with. Then he had a beer or two, and then he kept trying to go towards the cockpit. And I think they were being a little bit lenient on the guy, well, at least the guy on my flight, right, because they knew he was mentally handicapped. But it got to a point where they fucking duct taped him to the chair. And people are like, the people he were with was like, what about if he has to go to the bathroom? They're like, he's just going to fucking pee his pants because he's like, we're not untying him. They're like, we're duct taping him to the chair until we land. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
So something to shoot for Miami next week?
No, I'm bringing my iPad. I'm going to color my little comic book covers for 4 hours. I'm going to keep to myself.
Yeah. All right. Well, that comes to an end of this episode. We do want to talk a little bit about our YouTube video. So, unfortunately, YouTube is just not getting the views that we were hoping, and it's a lot of your time goes into it, right, to make the video, edit the video, re-edit the video, all that stuff. So we've decided for the near term, we're actually not going to put up a YouTube video anymore after this one.
Right.
And instead, we'll still be on the podcast. Because, look, I was there a couple weeks ago, and I saw all the effort you put into it. And it's not a case of like, oh, David, you're making dinner. Let me help you make dinner. It was like I saw you were doing, and I'm like, well, it's either him or nobody. Because I'm like, no fucking way I could do this. So because of that, we're actually going to stop for the short term, at least, putting videos on YouTube. But we're still available on almost every single method of podcast that you can think of.
Right.
Amazon,
Apple, podcast.com,
Spotify.
Like there's probably no less than a dozen different platforms. In fact, I mean, you guys, most of you know this already because a significant majority of the people that listen to us do it so in podcast form and not in video form. So it's actually a fraction of the people watch us. So, and I get it. I mean, Mike's not all that attractive. So,
Truth.
And only watching me for half of the video, I know it's not nearly enough for most of you. So I totally get it. And, you know, we appreciate that. So we're just going to take a little break from doing the video and stick to the audio. Plus, I think it'll actually help me focus on making the audio better so that it's clearer and more consistent. Because right now the audio is more of an after thought because we do the video. I spend hours putting the video together and then I send it over to you for approval. And then you're like, all right, it's good to go. And then I just export the audio and then that's the audio. So I'd much rather spend some time polishing the audio and make sure it's consistent for people listening in their cars and on their headphones.
Yeah. And while we're in Miami next week, if I happen to kick David in the nuts, we'll get that on video and we'll post that video. But other than that,
I'm bringing probably 4 cameras. I'm
Nice.
bringing one for you. I'm bringing one for GQ. And I'm bringing a GoPro in case we decide to get wet, go in the water in the beach or whatever. And then I'm bringing my regular camera. And then obviously we all have our phones. So I think if we're diligent enough about filming stuff, we probably will have enough video to put together something somewhat entertaining. But that remains to be seen.
Sounds good.
All right.
With that, I'm Michael Carter.
And I'm David Michael.
And we are
Ridiculously Bored.
I'd like to say see you soon, but I don't know if that's the case, people. Listen on our podcast.
All right, don't forget. Fuck you, Philly.